Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session of the Entrepreneurs Education Collaborative. As folks are coming in and we're having our friends from Facebook Live join us, we're going to give it just one more minute before we get going with the presentation. But if you came for the session on unique hiring and retention tools and strategies, you're in the right spot, and we'll get started in just a moment. So we're right at the bottom of the hour, which means we'll get started with the session for today. Welcome everybody to another Zoom session with the Entrepreneurs Education Collaborative. Our virtual session today on hiring and retention best practices and tools is with presenter Stan Odenthal. Today is Wednesday, May 17th, 2023. My name is Blake Martin. I am a local entrepreneur like many of you and a founding member of the Entrepreneurs Education Collaborative, or EEC. The EEC, who hosts all these sessions, is a collaborative effort of the following community resource providers. Here we go. The Better Business Bureau, Catholic Charities of Omaha, Greater Omaha Chambers Reach Initiative, the Nebraska Enterprise Fund, Nebraska Business Development Center, the Omaha Economic Development Corp, OPPD, SCORE Mentors of Greater Omaha, the Business Ethics Alliance, the U.S. Small Business Administration, and Grow Nebraska Women's Business Center. So we will have a quiz on all of those names at the end of the session, but all you really need to take away is we're your one-stop shop for entrepreneurial resources, tools, and advocacy around this area. A couple of housekeeping items before we introduce our presenter and get the session going. Remember to turn your phones to tase mode and also be aware that you will be muted throughout the session. So as always, we're taking questions through the chat and the comments features. Put them in there as soon as you think of the question or comment. And then once our presenter Stan is done going through his session, we'll take plenty of time, half of the session, to review those questions. If for any reason we don't cover one of your questions or you think of a great one right after we finish, just reach out to any of those EEC organizations that we listed before, the one you know best. Pose that question and we'll make sure that we get the answer for you. Also, as you may know, we do post the recordings of these sessions, and those typically go up within 24 to 48 hours of the end of this session. That's on our EEC, or Entrepreneurs Education Collaborative page on Facebook. So you can either go into Facebook and search Entrepreneurs Education Collaborative or just Google Entrepreneurs Education Collaborative. It'll get you to the right spot. You go to the video page and you'll see the posting. Of course, as I mentioned before, it's also real time on Facebook Live. So if you're there on the Greater Omaha Chambers Reach program page, then the recording will be there instantaneously. EEC Lunch and Learns continue every other month through the rest of this year, and the upcoming ones are always on a third Wednesday. So we've got Wednesday, July 19th, 11:30 to 12:30 p.m. cutting edge social media tips. In August, Nebraska, this is an extra one, a bonus session. So in August, legal pitfalls of small businesses, and that is on August 15th. And then we've got apps and digital tools that save time and energy on the third Wednesday in September, which is the 20th at 11:30 a.m. Just pay attention to our Reach page and the emails you get, to our EEC page and the emails you get, and you'll have the registrations there. If you go to that Entrepreneur Education Collaborative page on Facebook right now, you can register for all of those sessions. Make it easy on yourself. So the good part for today's session, I get to introduce Mr. Stan Odenthal. He's the Director of Business Relations at Heartland Workforce Solutions. You're going to see contact information for that group, and if you haven't plugged into them, you're going to want to. And I think he's got a link to the newsletter. There's some great info there. Much of Stan's career has been focused on his passion for workforce development. He's the director of the Office of Employment and Training with the Nebraska Department of Labor before his current role. And he also served as the executive director for the Nebraska Equal Opportunity Commission. He's done a whole bunch of different collaborations with state and local government agencies, state legislators, institutions of higher learning, secondary schools, educational service units, and a wide array of different nonprofits and for-profits. He's a consultant for various workforce development boards and economic development groups from around the country. He holds a Juris Doctorate from the University of Nebraska College of Law, local guy, and a master's in political science from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And relevant to this session, his primary focus on strategic planning and industry sector engagement is something he takes very seriously. And that's exactly why we're excited to have him with us today. Stan, thank you so much for joining us and for volunteering your time to educate all of us. The floor is yours.
Cool. Thank you, Blake. And thank you for that introduction. As you started with that introduction, I was like, wow, this Blake guy knows a lot about me. I totally forgot that I submitted all of that information a couple months ago. But yeah.
Oh, no. I just knew it intuitively.
Okay, good. I'm excited for today's topic. We are going to be talking about unique hiring and retention tools. I'm going to be talking a lot about stuff that we're seeing at Heartland Workforce Solutions, also utilizing a lot of data from the Nebraska Department of Labor, and maybe even a thing or two from ChatGPT. So as we get started with this, I just want to say, first off, good morning. And to everybody here in Nebraska, good afternoon if you're on the East Coast. Good evening if you're in Europe. We're going to say that this is going to go out to a lot of people. And so we're going to say, hey, if you're in Europe, good evening. So today with the presentation, we are going to talk, as I mentioned, a little bit about HWS, about Heartland Workforce Solutions, the organization that I currently work for. I'm going to jump into those labor market tools. We're going to get into the hiring and retention, both on the anecdotal side as well as the data side. And then just talk about some of the best practices. And it may or may not be in that order that I listed. As you can see, there's I've got quite a few slides, a lot of good data. We'll see how much we make it through, but hopefully this will be available to everybody in PDF form. And always happy to answer questions after the presentation, immediately after, or a week from now, if something pops into your brain and you have questions about any of the data that's shared today. So just a little bit of a background about Heartland Workforce Solutions. We are the designated local workforce development area that serves Douglas, Sarpy, and Washington counties. What that means is under federal legislation, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, we get federal funds to help serve both job seekers and businesses through our job center. So at that job center, which is pictured on the screen, located at 5752 Ames Avenue in Omaha, we actively serve folks that are walking through our doors that are looking for employment, looking to get connected with assistance, either filing for unemployment insurance, looking for a job, getting connected with some of our community partners. In-house, we have about 15 different community partner organizations. Those include federally funded programs, state-run programs, a lot of programs that are funded by local foundational dollars, all focus on workforce development activities. So as I mentioned, it's not just job seekers that are coming through our doors. We're also actively working with businesses. And most of those programs we work with have representatives that serve businesses. We also make space available at our center for businesses to utilize. So if you ever have, need for space, whether it's for a conference or a team retreat, that space is available free of charge. You just need to coordinate with us. And there's a couple pictures of what our center looks like and some of the conference rooms there as well on this slide. So feel free to reach out about that. But what we're trying to do at the end of the day, it's all workforce development. And we're super excited that things are going well enough now that we're actually going to be opening up a South Omaha location here in September. This is on South 24th Street, a picture of a building that is currently getting remodeled, what it previously looked like. This is a block north of South High School, if you're familiar with the area. This is an old funeral home. You can see the before picture of the building and then the after picture. So at our current location, we have about 20,000 square feet. This location is going to add about 11,000 more square feet, as well as a coffee shop. And so we'll be able to better serve the Omaha metro area from this other location. And as I mentioned, because we are federally funded and we are the designated local workforce development area, all of our services to businesses are free of charge. So anything that I mentioned to you, whether it's a workshop or a job fair or one-on-one assistance for your business, all of these things are free of charge through our current location or this other location as we open it up. But as we jump into the topic today of hiring and retention of employees, one thing I wanted to do is, I've been using ChatGPT quite a bit lately just to see, what its capabilities are, how I can best utilize ChatGPT to save time in the work that I'm doing. And so I threw this question at it the other day, and I was like, doing a webinar about hiring and retention. And so I asked it, for some feedback on the top areas in order to for best practices for hiring new employees as well as retaining existing employees. And so it gave me back 12 results. And I want to talk about those 12 results and what we're seeing as well as it compares to this, to what ChatGPT is showing us. And so also encourage you, if you have not yet signed up for a ChatGPT account, it's totally worth it. You can ask all kinds of good questions it is very effective. So one of the areas that it mentions is defining clear job requirements. So as we're in that process of hiring folks for a position, obviously it makes perfect sense that you're going to want to have as clear of job description as possible. We see this quite often where folks don't list out, salary is one thing that's often missed when it comes to job requirements or job postings and making them clear. Also, a lot of times people will self-select themselves out from a job based off of what is listed under the preferred versus required job qualifications. And so as you're thinking about that, consider what's there and what people may see when it comes to the job, what really is necessary. Effective job advertising, that's a no-brainer. I mean, obviously you want to get your job out there as much as possible through social media, through job boards, but also, being a part of a lot of community events, whether it's local job fairs or other opportunities to connect with the talents available. Streamlined recruiting process. This is an area where when we have job fairs, I often talk to businesses about this because and we'll get into the numbers a little bit about how many people are looking for work in Omaha right now. But when you're looking at a candidate that's available that is highly skilled, you're probably not the only business that's looking at that candidate. And so the sooner and the quicker that you can work through that interviewing process, that recruitment process, the higher the likelihood that that individual is going to join your company. And so at our hiring events lately, we've been setting aside interviewing rooms for businesses that are wanting to interview on site and encouraging businesses to do that because that increases their likelihood. And so I would also highly recommend that you look at your interviewing processes. And if you are attending something like a job fair, that you're moving folks along in that process as quickly as possible, including potentially on-site interviews if that's a realistic possibility for your business. We've seen a lot of great success. One company that I would highlight from a recent job fair that did a fantastic job of this was Turner Construction. We did a re-entry job fair recently, and they had things set up where, they not only did they have a booth at the job fair, but they had 2 interview rooms ready to go with folks that were able to do kind of a pre-screening, at the table and then send folks back to the interview, moving along that process, getting people ready to go, sooner rather than later. Some of the other things that ChatGPT highlighted is the thorough interview process, and that just, even thinking through what that interview process looks like. A lot of local companies like to involve their entire teams within the interview process. So they may have a formal interview, but then there may also be like a lunch component or some other component where they're getting to know team members in addition to the folks that are involved in the thorough interview, the formal interview. And so one of the advantages to that is it's a two-way win because the employer gets to see that individual in context outside of an interview, but then also that individual gets a better feel for their cultural fit within the organization as well, and get some of the insights there before coming on board. Obviously, a good onboarding program is fantastic. A lot of great companies have extensive onboarding programs. I could actually think of a state government example for this, and Nebraska VR in the Department of Education has a really good onboarding program as well as professional development program where any new individual coming on board there has this, I can't remember if it's a year long, something like that, but it's this whole program that's been built around making sure that that individual has the skills and competencies, but also the understanding that they need to really do their job. And so thinking through that, I mean, that's obviously a huge thing to keep people around, is helping to build those skills, helping to make people feel comfortable, helping to show where people are at in the process too, and providing that feedback along the way. Competitive compensation and benefits. So some of the data that I'm going to get into today is going to talk about this when it comes to job seekers and the desire for competitive compensation and benefits. I think that's an area that we all can agree with. You know, lower wages typically mean less candidates. And so making sure that you are competitive. I'll also provide you some resources as to how you can compare your company and the types of positions that you may have to other local companies as well, to make sure that you are staying competitive in those wages. Career development opportunities. This gets on the retention side of things, looking for those opportunities to continue to grow skills and you know, increases the likelihood that an individual will stick around. That positive work environment, you know, what's that saying? It's the Peter Drucker saying of culture eats strategy for breakfast, you know, and that is true. And that's coming from someone who does strategic planning with a lot of organizations. Is strategic planning, strategy is fantastic for an organization, but it doesn't deliver the retention of employees unless you're building that right culture internally. And 100% agree with that statement. So regular performance feedback, again, people want to know, you know, how they're doing. And if you have set intervals for that, regular, you know, weekly meetings with their mentors, with their supervisors, 30-day, 90-day feedback sessions. A lot of organizations have those regular intervals in place to help build that performance feedback, where it almost, you know, from day one, that new employee understands when and how they will be given the feedback. Employee engagement initiatives. I'm going to talk a little bit at the end about some upcoming events that we have at Heartland Workforce Solutions, but we're next week we have a workshop where we're bringing in Mutual of Omaha to talk about what they're doing with employee engagement and with their employee resource groups. There's a lot of great things that companies locally are doing to get employees rallied around certain topic areas, or just engaged in general, not only in the work, but also in that organizational culture side of things, trying to make the best environment possible. And then that flexibility and work-life balance. I sometimes like to say life-work balance rather than work-life balance. I'm trying to get better at that, of being able to, you know, do those fun things in life. And I think more and more people are embracing that as well. And coming out of the pandemic, where we all kind of reevaluated that work-life balance, I think is another, you know, great thing that we're looking at. A company that I'd highlight on there is actually a Lincoln-based company, Kawasaki. I don't know if you're familiar with what they did it's probably been about a year and a half ago. But they updated some of their scheduling in order to cater around stay-at-home parents who were taking their kids to school, dropping them off, picking them up. You know, previously their work schedule, their shifts were more of that 8-hour in nature type of shift, and they developed some shorter shifts and actually moved some of the machines around on their floor to compensate for that, so that they could have people working more of a 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. shift. Tapping into that labor pool that doesn't show up in the unemployment numbers, that labor pool that wants to work, but also needs to drop the kids off and pick them up because they don't have other options, or that's what they're choosing to do. And so looking at that work-life balance, there are great examples of companies that are, you know, trying to help people live the life that they want to live, and also be able to get a little bit of work in there too. And then communication and feedback, I think that goes with everything else that we talked about when it comes to that performance feedback and everything else, as well as setting those expectations. So that's what ChatGPT says. There's a little bit of commentary I have on there, some examples of local companies. We'll dive into some of the data a little bit here as well. So For a few of you, you've probably seen some of these charts before. For others, it may be brand new. So I want to make sure that I'm explaining things correctly. That most of this information is coming from the Nebraska Department of Labor. It's what's often referred to as labor market information. Basically provides, some of the basics: employment, unemployment, labor force, wages, projections, demographics, business characteristics, all of that fun stuff. Why do we use labor market information? We use it to track local and national economic conditions, to learn future needs, to see about wages and how wages compare across industries as well as occupations, to learn about the demographics of our local workforce area, because this data is localized, to determine what benefits other employers are offering or what is needed to stay competitive. It's also used to guide employee recruitment efforts, to establish business locations, to learn the cost of living where a business is located, and so much more. So as we're looking at some of this data that's coming out about our local market, we can see on this slide that this kind of gives a comparison from January of 2019 through March of 2023. So it's a good amount of time. And this is focusing in on number of jobs that are available in any given month. So on the left side of your screen, you're seeing the total unique postings of jobs that are listed in AnyWorks. And so those are directly listed in AnyWorks, which is the state's labor exchange or the state's job board, or spidered in through that board, reaching out to Indeed and LinkedIn and all these other places where jobs are posted and gathering that information. And so it's a pretty accurate count as to how many jobs are available within the Omaha metro area. And so looking at this data, you can also see that period of time there. You can see April 2020 to April 2021. Pandemic period of time where there's a huge drop in the number of jobs that are available, but you can also see it shooting back up. And so you can see April 2023, there's 40,621 jobs in the Omaha metro area that were posted within that month. And comparing that to a few years ago, even before pre-pandemic, you can see that we're back to kind of normal levels. And actually exceeding some of those levels from 2019 already. For a while there in 2022, last year, there were so many jobs posted. And so the numbers on the right side of your screen are unique jobs on any given day. And so this was pulled on May 16th. And so the difference between left and right is unique jobs over the course of the month. On the right side is on a specific day of how many jobs were posted, because some jobs are posted 7 days, some are posted 2 weeks, or whatever amount of time it is. And so on any given day, you can go into that system and approximately find about 23,000 jobs, 24,000 jobs. Last year at this time, that number was closer to about 30,000 jobs. And so it is dropping a little bit, but not a ton. And it's still a lot more jobs available than active job seekers. And so what areas are people, most in need of hiring? And number one is always registered nurses for the Omaha area. It's number one for the state as a whole. And it's number one for most states across the country. In fact, I think it's 42 or 43 states across the country that registered nurses is the number one occupation. So you can also see several other healthcare occupations that are challenging to hire right now on this list. On the left side is the occupations. On the right side, this is Omaha specific data as to the organizations that are hiring the most individuals. So we can come back with questions on any of that if you have them, but I want to make sure that we hit a couple different things that are coming up as well. And so I'll kind of skip over this slide too. As you know, the unemployment rate in Omaha is really low. It's slightly above the rest of the state, 2.2% versus 2.0% for March. Slightly above Lincoln, which is at 1.9%, but it's still extremely low when it comes to just unemployment rate compared to the rest of the country. This slide gets into that in further detail, with the left side being the labor force that's available to work, and then the divided into two categories on the right side with employment versus unemployment. So anyone that's included in that labor force is someone that says, I'm either working or looking for a job. For individuals who are adults that may not be interested in finding a job, they're not included in that number. But basically, there's about 511,000 folks that are included in that labor force number for the Omaha metro area. And you can see the number that were unemployed there. That last number of bottom right corner, 11,433. That's significantly less than that, 24,000 number of jobs available today. And so that's why hiring is challenging, is because you look at those numbers and there's not enough people in Nebraska right now to cover all of the jobs. And so it's a people issue right now. And one thing to also that's important to remember is that 12,000 number of unemployed individuals, it isn't the same 11 or 12,000 people each month. I mean, it's a rolling number. And so there's new people that are becoming unemployed on a regular basis. And so it's not just one small segment of the population that's not working. It's a rolling number. And so there's always new people that are unfortunately getting laid off or let go or leaving past positions that are newly becoming available for employment. So this slide gives you just a little info as to how to find this data on the anyworks.nebraska website. Tons of great data there. I encourage you to go look at that. This slide just mentions the living wage according to MIT as to how much folks should be making in order to make ends meet. But I wanted to really highlight a couple things here in the last 10 minutes or so of what I'm going to talk about. And so these are two great resources from the Nebraska Department of Labor that are going to help in this conversation when it comes to employee recruitment, as well as competitiveness across employers to get talent. And if you're joining us from somewhere outside of Nebraska, these resources are going to be available through your state as well. And so take a look at what your state Department of Labor, Department of Economic Development might have available to you. Also, a lot of local chambers have similar information available as well. But these are two reports, the Labor Availability and Hiring Needs Report, as well as the 2021 Benefits Report. So a labor availability report it's a research project that where the state gathers information on business and labor force needs. And so it's looking at hiring and training needs, it's looking at labor availability, and it's also looking at skills gaps. So for this report that I'm going to be talking about, this is kind of the area of the combined survey. We'll focus in more on the Omaha specific numbers, but looking at Omaha and some of the hiring difficulties. So this is on the left side, you can see that top 10 occupational groups reporting a hiring difficulty. And it aligns a little bit with that occupation group of job openings that I put up on the screen previously, but these were the occupational groups with the highest reported difficulty. So you're looking at installation and maintenance and repair, construction and extraction, personal care and service, food prep and serving related production, healthcare support. And then as far as industries on the right, as far as difficulty in hiring, construction, accommodation, and food service, healthcare and social assistance, manufacturing are your top areas right now that are reporting. Again, this is data that's probably year and a half, 2 years old, but it's probably pretty consistent still right now as far as difficulties in hiring within these industries compared to other industries. And so again, this was a survey sent out to these business leaders saying, how difficult is it to hire? And that these are the areas that are reporting the highest difficulty. So when we get into reasons why it's so difficult to hire, 82.5% just said not enough applicants. 58% said wage demands were too high. Lack of work experience and poor work history were also at the top of those lists. People talk about the housing issues within an area. That was on the lower side of things. But so there's some interesting areas as well in here. And so this might get into some of the difficulty when it comes to hiring folks. Again, making sure that you're promoting your jobs well to get more applicants, and then the wages, the salaries. So addressing the difficulty in hiring, what action has your business taken to increase the candidate pool for difficult to hire jobs? So this was a question that was asked. 90% of the respondents said they increased wages, or 53% said they increased benefits. So that's first two steps in increasing your competitiveness is pay and benefits. And then a few other options on there as well. I found these slides from or this data from that report to be especially intriguing when we're looking at this from the worker side of the point of view. So benefits offered to employees, and so this is what's currently being offered by businesses. So that the green means that they're offering essentially full benefits. Yellow is some benefits, and blue is none. You can see most places are offering full paid vacation leave, paid holiday leave, health insurance, retirement, paid sick leave. But there's some other things on here that that are becoming more and more popular when it comes to improving your chances of getting that good candidate. And so you can see childcare assistance is listed on there with 7% of companies offering that. I would guess that number's higher from what I've seen in the last couple of years since this data was last collected. Tuition reimbursement. And then on the right side of your screen is the benefits for part-time employees, and so the same type of stuff, but may give you some ideas as to creative benefits that you can look to increase the likelihood that you'll land that top tier candidate. This is from the job seeker perspective. What's important to them? Green is very important. Yellow is just regular important. So when you're looking at green and yellow and looking at that combined number, that gives you an idea of top areas, top benefit areas that really would help land that candidate. And so salary, you're looking at a combined total of about 90% of people saying that that's either important or very important. For that other 10%, they're, feel free to send me that extra money that you don't need. I'd gladly take it. But I think salary and benefit, is very important. And then you see job security and stability as the second most, using existing skills. Actually, those two above paid vacation and paid holidays is quite intriguing. And so good charts there to look at. Important factors for potential job seekers on this one. These are other factors. Health insurance rates up there pretty highly, dental insurance, paid family leave, lots of good stuff there. Job satisfaction factors for employed and potential job seekers. Again, job stability is up there at the top. Work schedule is second. Using existing skills is third. And then job satisfaction opportunities for advancement within industries. So the importance of opportunities to move up the ladder or to have better, job opportunities based off of industry. And so food service and accommodation, most people, and that was the top industry where folks were looking for opportunities to move up as a component of whether they would accept a job or not. And then that IT side of things is second. So lots of good stuff there. Job satisfaction opportunities for advancement. This was one thing where it was broken out by length of time that someone has spent with an employer. So on the left side of your screen, if someone had been with the employer less than a year, what they were looking for when it came to opportunities for advancement. And so the longer that someone has been with an organization, the numbers go down a little bit as to that need for advancement, but it's still a pretty high percentage overall. And then just some obstacles to employment here that were cited by job seekers. So that work schedule flexibility, inadequate pay offered by local area employers, required relocation, and then inadequate benefits at local area employers were listed as the top areas there. If you get time and you get these slides, the willingness to move is kind of an interesting topic as well. how likely job seekers would be to move outside of their current area. It's broken down by city. It's broken down by metro, non-metro. It's broken down by wages offered, whether that's a component of whether someone would be willing to move or not. And then also by the age of the children or the employee age group. And so good data there if you wanted to dive into that of the likelihood that someone would be willing to move to take a job. And then this was just, regional cities, if you were offered a job in greater Nebraska that met your most important criteria, would you consider accepting it? And so you can kind of see that recruiting base from bigger cities that are around Omaha, and the likelihood that someone would be willing to accept a position here based off of that criteria being met. So what we're seeing here at HWS, we're still seeing a lot of folks coming through our resource room. On average, we get over 12 to 1,300 unique individuals per month. On a daily basis, it's between 60 and 160 individuals walking through our doors looking for employment. Mondays are our busiest days of the week. Typically, we'll get about 120 people. Anywhere between 100 and 120 people on a Monday. And a lot of times that correlates with the earliest time that someone can apply for unemployment insurance for that week. And so we help people with that process. And then we also try to connect them with employment opportunities. And so we offer the ability for businesses to come and be a part of what we're doing here at Heartland Workforce Solutions, to be a part of an employer spotlight, sit in the resource room, recruit folks that are coming in on Mondays or Tuesdays, which again are our busiest days of the week. Other resources, you can look at some of these as you get the slides, but a lot of great resources even beyond the Nebraska Department of Labor at the federal level, as well as some local data that's available. We make our data available on our website of the people that we serve through our various partner programs. So if you go to the hws-ne.org and click on that partners tab, you can see a data dashboard that shows who we serve and some of the demographics, and you can break that down by program or anything that way if you're curious. You can also register with us to connect on a more closer level with some of the things that we're offering. Blake mentioned that a monthly newsletter. That's a great resource. It tells you about all of our upcoming events and how you can get involved with those. And that's what's on this slide. So you can find that on the employers tab of our website as well, or capture that QR code right there. But we compile everything that we can, and the first part of the month, that newsletter comes out with a lot of great info as to what's coming up. You can also catch us on Instagram and TikTok, in addition to the traditional stuff of Facebook, LinkedIn. We don't really have much of a Twitter presence anymore, but we're really trying to promote Instagram and TikTok right now to build up our audience. But we're still seeing most of our traffic on Facebook and LinkedIn. But connect with us however you feel most comfortable. You can also, if you want a 1-hour orientation into all of the services that are offered through Heartland Workforce Solutions, we do that the second Wednesday of each month. You can sign up on our main page, or you can follow this QR code. As I mentioned, there is the upcoming business workshop from Mutual of Omaha. So we've got Vanessa Martinez Hernandez coming to speak to us about the cool things that they're doing with their employee resource groups to really help keep people around and keep them, involved in all of the great things that are happening internally. And so they've got a great employee retention program there that we're going to be talking about. And then other events that are upcoming, Jobapalooza, our biggest job fair of the year, is June 10th. So if you want to reach out to me and get signed up for, having a booth there, again, free of charge, it's going to be a good community event, kind of a block party that we do out in our parking lot. We usually get a pretty good turnout of job seekers. But I just wanted to kind of speed through that last little bit of things. Lots of great data. So as you get these slides, look through there and dive in a little bit more. But I encourage you to look at all of those resources from the Nebraska Department of Labor, because they really do. I mean, beyond the data, it helps you wrap your brain around, how to stay competitive, what other businesses are doing, things that you may not have thought of, and then what's most important to job seekers, when it comes to saying yes to a job. So I'll just end there, and I know I'm a little over time for what we planned, but are there any questions?
Well, it's good info, so it's perfectly fine being a couple minutes over time. More important that we get the information. Reminder to everybody that this will be posted, the recording of this will be posted. So, and you'll get that link in an email as well as going to our Facebook page. So if you missed any of that data, you'll have access to it. So I'll be quiet for a moment and let Jamel go through any questions we got, because it does look like we had a handful in there.
Okay, perfect. I'll dive straight in. So the first question is, what is the demographic that your agency works with primarily?
So we have all kinds of programs. And so that Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act that I mentioned actually has three different programs. Adult program, which is primarily low-income adults; dislocated worker, which is primarily individuals who have been let go from a job and are unlikely to return to a similar job and need some additional training; and then the youth program. And so those are 3 of the 15 programs that I mentioned. And so those 3 right there cover pretty much every age group. Walking through our doors, typically it's a little bit older, 30s to 60s is typical in that age group, but we have specific programs for youth. We actually have specific programs with some of our partners here for the Senior Community Service Employment Program that works with folks that are later on in their careers. And so a little bit of everybody. It's interesting when we look at our social media reach and who is paying attention digitally to what we're doing. And it's mostly actually that kind of 25 to 45 age group that is paying most attention to the stuff that we're doing online. I would say in person, it trends a little bit older as to who's walking through our doors, but we already do have programs for everybody.
All right, perfect. Next question is, do you offer any interview prep or professional development classes for any applicants?
Yeah, so we have regular resume workshops that you can find that information on the calendar section on our website. We also, for some of these bigger events like the Java-Palooza events, we'll try to do some opportunities to lead up and prep candidates for those events beforehand. And so that might include like those interviewing technique classes, resume writing classes. This last time, or a couple months ago, we did a class that was associated with wage negotiation, which is a critical issue for individuals looking for employment. And so we can develop classes if there's a need for it. We've also do a number of different things focused on soft skills. And so we receive funding from the City of Omaha for the National Career Readiness Assessment. We also offer, make that available for free for anybody that's interested in doing that. And we also offer the Bring Your A Game class as well. Again, made available for free. A lot of our partner programs have various workshops or classes that they do as well. So a variety of things.
Okay, perfect. Next question is, what kind of formulas are you seeing employers use for employees who want a hybrid type of workspace? So working from home some days and then some days at the office or workplace.
It's really all over the place right now. And definitely it depends on industry and all of that. So the organization that I work for right now, we don't have a set 2 days on, 3 days off type of thing. It's based off of our what we have on our schedules. And so I typically will work 2 days from home and 3 days in the office. A lot of our partner programs are kind of 4-to-1 type of thing. Some are still completely remote. And so looking at other organizations across the city, it really is all over the place. There's a lot of organizations that are still allowing people that flexibility to work almost entirely from home, if not entirely. There's still a lot of that. And it's interesting because I think you're also seeing the trend towards that being a major component in almost the salary negotiations, is that that opportunity. Like, what's that really going to look like for me? Is it, 3 days on, 2 days off type of thing, from home? And so I've had conversations with businesses where, they're challenged by that because their current employees got used to working from home during the pandemic and want to maintain that schedule, or new employees that are looking to hire or looking to come on board want that work from home time as well as the in the office thing. And so I've even seen businesses invest in some fun things for the office if they're requiring people to come in, including that Google type environment of ping pong tables and stuff like that, just because there has to be something that's fun when they come into the office in order to keep people around. But it's all over the place, honestly. There's not a right answer to that, and it's really dependent on companies. I don't know the answer. It's all over the place from what I'm seeing.
No, I think that answers it perfectly. And then the last question that I see in the chat is, do you think the strategies you suggested for increasing candidates in large cities can work in small towns as well? And then second part to that is, what advice do you have for companies recruiting in small towns?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think all of those things that ChatGPT gave me at the start, I think was pretty phenomenal. Those are all great topic areas. And honestly, like, if ChatGPT could have just provided me an avatar and it could have just gave the presentation for me, I would have done that as well. But no, like there were some great ideas there. And I think everyone, obviously small town business can have a little bit different of a feel than the more urban setting. But employees want to feel valued when they come into work each day, and they want to feel supported by the people around them. And whether that team size is 3 or 4 people or 300 or 400 people, they want that positive feeling coming into the office. And I've worked for organizations that are small and of that size, and organizations that are gigantic, and nobody wants to be in that situation where every day you're coming into work and you're going, dang it, I have to go back into work with this stupid place that I don't like, and so you want to create that right atmosphere. And I think culture is just as important with that 5-person office as it is with the 500-person office. And so I would say a few things are going to change. Maybe the ways that you advertise the job and the ways that you focus more in on the networking side of things. But at the end of the day, sometimes I feel like Omaha is just like, a really big, small city. And, a lot of the times those networking components work in a small town as well as a big city. I feel like I'm only a call or two away from anybody in town, and they're willing to get on the phone with me. And so I think there are some advantages, even to being in a big city like Omaha in Nebraska, and the culture of the Nebraska Nice as well, of being able to really make some things happen, even if you are in a big city. And so I'd say for the small town, yeah, absolutely. Make sure that that culture is super positive with your business, but yeah, customize things to meet the needs of whatever. I mean, the talent pool yeah. So sorry, it's just kind of all over the place with this question, because you get into specialized talent and it becomes a little bit more difficult in small towns. And that talent pool may or may not be there. And so then you're looking at recruitment efforts, which can, take a different shape. So I would encourage whoever submitted that question to reach out to me, and I can talk to them one-on-one and figure out what their hiring needs are and help that way.
And Stan, I'd like to jump in. Can't see it. I was in Norfolk just recently, and Wayne State is working with the city of Norfolk to do some very unique recruiting strategies of students, including a scholarship that gets them seniors into the town of Norfolk, gets them jobs, gets them paid. And it's that partnership with the city and their local economic development agency, partnering with businesses, that is really kind of a new and unique thing that they're doing. So I would ask people to check out Growing Together Career Scholars. It's funded by the Exarban Foundation, and kind of a unique strategy that's being employed through, again, the Exarban Foundation.
Oh, that's awesome. I hadn't heard of that one. When I used to be with the Nebraska Department of Labor and the Equal Opportunity Commission, I had a chance to work with a lot of small communities throughout the state. And there are so many great efforts like that that are happening all over the place, whether you're in Scottsbluff or North Platte or wherever it might be. And so connecting locally with the efforts that are happening through local chambers is a key strategy too, no matter where you're at.
Absolutely.
So it looks like a couple of questions came in, kind of going back to the hybrid aspect. One question was, do you have any information or comparable information showing productivity for staff working remotely versus in the office?
I mean, I could find some. I don't have any in this presentation, and I've seen multiple studies, and the studies are sometimes all over the place, depending on what specifically they're looking at. So I wouldn't want to like cite anything in here, but I could definitely send over a couple studies if someone is interested in that, if they want to provide me their email address.
And Stan, we
That's
could
one.
even, if you find
Okay.
something, you can include that with the postings, so it's available.
Okay. Well, I think every personality is different too, right? And how much you focus in on different things. I'm kind of a social person when I get into the office, and so I tend to actually get more work done when I'm working from home because it's just me and the cat, you know. And so I'm able to like focus in on certain things. Whereas like if I'm in the office here, yes, I'm getting a lot of communicating done with folks that are on my team, but I'm also socializing and talking about the latest episode of Ted Lasso quite a bit, and you know how it goes.
Okay, I think there was one last question. We've had some previous sessions on offering voluntary/supplemental health benefits such as dental, disability, etc., in order to provide a solution to candidates and employees without the employer taking on the financial burden that formal group health plans can create. Curious if you or are you observing employers using these benefits in the local markets?
Yeah, I'm not familiar enough with that to really answer that question outside of the data that was provided in some of those tables as to what's being offered. I wouldn't want to take a stab at that one.
If I could chime in just 1 second, every week we have somebody talking about them losing employees because of their lack of benefits. And so implementation of some sort of, whether it's voluntary or partially paid for benefits is definitely something that's beneficial to our small businesses. One thing that hopefully, Blake, in the future, maybe beginning of 2024, that we'll have something that will be a group benefit that would be offered by the chamber. And so we're working on something right now, and we'll hopefully be able to roll that out in some sort of future session.
You know that was just recorded, right, Whitley?
Just between us.
Thank you for sharing that. And you kind of tied it together because, you know, so I think your observation is very relevant about the use of those voluntary benefits, given that you're representative of the Greater Omaha Chamber, which is the largest chamber by business members in the metro area. So thanks. Does that wrap it up for the questions, Jermo?
Yep, that's all for the questions.
We're on the same page. So Before you all go, we have a couple of special announcements here real quick. One of them, of course, being a big thanks to Stan for the presentation, the very cogent overview, and the great data that, yes, it will be available to everybody through the recording. So as we said here in the chat, you can just go into the Entrepreneurs Education Collaborative on Facebook or Google that phrase, and you'll see within a day or two that the recording of this is posted along with the PowerPoint that Stan put together. So thank you so much for that. We've got a couple of polls that we'd like to put up. Those of you who are our frequent flyers, you know that we count on you for feedback on the session and feedback on upcoming sessions, the topics for upcoming sessions. So Susie, if you're with us, if you could put up the poll on suggested topics for upcoming sessions, I'd really appreciate that. So go ahead and choose some of the topics you'd be interested in. We know in past sessions, just to prove our point that we really use this information, we've had a lot of feedback on recruitment and retention and hiring topics, which is exactly why we had Stan here today. So we'll give it a minute to see what people choose, and then we'll do some quick results. While we're waiting for that, I also wanted to embarrass somebody a little bit, and that is Susie, who I mentioned, who does all the behind the scene things that make these sessions happen and has done so for the last 4 years, probably about 60 or so sessions. Susie does all the little things, Susie Jansky, all the little things that make it possible for us to put these sessions together, all the troubleshooting, last minute high pressure deals. And she gets all of these EEC collaborative groups together to make sure that this all works out and provides great information to entrepreneurs and small businesses all over the place. Well, Susie's moving on after 4 years of working with us and going to greener pastures in Wyoming. We want to wish her well, and we want to take a moment, even though she hates being called out and having attention drawn to her. We want to give you a virtual standing ovation for everything that you have done for us and for entrepreneurs all over the region for the past 4 years. Thank you, Susie, for your dedication and your professionalism. And thank you for doing us one last wonderful gift, which is to train your replacement so we don't skip your EEC.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. If we can show the results to the poll for one last to-do item for Susie. There we go. So it looks like we need to really make sure we're focusing in. Oh, good news, by the way, upcoming sessions include tips and tricks on social media, as well as money-saving apps that you can use. So there's some tech-related stuff, of course, acquisition and retention. So we won't stop with our focus on that. Customer service strategies. Yeah, we're all fighting more people for less customers or vice versa, and it becomes an important topic. So thank you for your feedback there. We appreciate that, and we will keep these polls, and we do take them very much into consideration when we're putting together our sessions. So with that, we want to remind you one more time, we do have our next sessions coming up. They're always on the third Wednesdays. The next one will be Wednesday, July 19th, 11:30 to 12:30, another lunch and learn. That will be on cutting edge social media tips. So glad to see that that's still from our poll, a very necessary session. All of the information you need is on Entrepreneurs Education Collaborative on Facebook. And one final note, thank you again, Stan, for volunteering your time today, the great information. We appreciate it. All of this information will be posted within 24 to 48 hours. And Susie, once again, thank you for everything you've done. We'll see you all here again in a month. Thanks for your time and your dedication.
Thanks, everybody.